With the latest reporting that Miami's in fact interested in a potential trade for Wizards star Bradley Beal, we asked the question that many aren't willing to answer. Is it worth acquiring Beal if you have to trade Tyler Herro? We break that down and go through our hypothetical trade target draft. Which player, stars or otherwise, would be the best options for the Heat this summer? We break that down on today's edition of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. However you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We're talking Bradley Beal here before we get into our hypothetical trade target draft. We talked about all the reporting, the Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal buzz. We've had that now for a week. We've been talking about it. We talked about the reporting about Beal yesterday, but I think it's worth now, David, getting into what it could cost the Heat and specifically about Tyler Herro. I don't know that Herro would have to be included in a Bradley Beal trade. The money does work if you include Duncan Robinson. There's other ways to get there, like with Kyle Lowry's contract. But if the Wizards do want Herro, is losing Herro for Beal worth it for the Miami Heat?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, the pros and cons of it are, I think Beal is a little bit more ready-made for the situation that Miami finds himself in. Like you talked about this in yesterday's episode, the window for a title contention exists now with Jimmy Butler and then exists down the road with Bam and Tyler. At least that's currently how the roster is constructed. So you'd have to sacrifice one for the other. But Beal is probably much more suited for this current window with Jimmy in there. If you want to get a title within the next year or two, your better bet is probably Bradley Beal. He is an improvement over Tyler Herro. If not a significant one, it's an improvement. And again, given his age, given the chance to win a title, I think he could be a better fit for what Miami is looking to accomplish right now. It's not a knock on Tyler, but at the same time, I think Beal might be the better option right now. But you're also sacrificing a significant, again, the future. You're also taking on a lot more salary than what than what Tyler is making currently. And Tyler is a very good player who could potentially get to that point where he could be the kind of offensive player that Bradley Beal is. And if that's the case, then it might be too early to pull the trigger on that kind of potential deal. It's a really, really tough question to ask for. It's what your priorities are, whether or not you want to be stuck right now with the Jimmy contention window, and that effectively shuts down any future opportunity until such time as you have to make another trade down the road.
Ideally, you wouldn't have to make this decision. Like you could trade maybe Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson for Bradley Beal and not have to worry about this. But could a
Herro Beal backcourt work? As a starting group?
I don't know that it would. I think it would be preferential. I don't know that it would work great. I think it would be preferred to dealing Herro for Beal, because the other part of it too is the opportunity cost. If you're not trading Tyler Herro, who's your best young trade asset, for Bradley Beal, then maybe you could turn around and trade Tyler Herro for something else. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense, whether it's a guy like Damian Lillard, but we already talked about that, or even like a long-term answer at power forward who might be a better fit with this roster or something like that. Right. So the money part, I want to put a pin in, because I do think that there's something like, if you're the Miami Heat and you're kind of at, like, to your point, what kind of window are we going for? Are we going for the now, or are we going for the later? You also have to ask yourself, does Bradley Beal make us so good now that we can take advantage of Jimmy Butler's championship window? Because when we're talking timeline, you also have to ask yourself, can Tyler Herro be as good as Bradley Beal? And if so, when does that happen? Because Beal is going to be, like, we're talking about a guy that's 7 years older than Tyler Herro, right? He has experience being the number one option on a basketball team, a number one scoring option. Tyler Herro doesn't really have that, right? It's always been Jimmy and Bam with him. And so if you're looking for somebody that could do that for a year or two, Beal is the obvious choice. He's not as good as a three-point shooter as Tyler Herro. So if you're looking for spacing, I think Beal is still respected from a spacing standpoint. He's a better playmaker, a much better two-point shooter and finisher around the basket. And I agree with you. I think it's an obvious improvement over Tyler Herro right now. But if you think that Tyler Herro could be somewhere close to Bradley Beal at half the cost in 3 years, including when Beal's declining, and Herro's only getting better. So at what point do those sort of charts intersect? That's probably worth exploring if you're the Miami Heat. But I would also say this: if you think Beal can put you over the top right now and make you favorites in the Eastern Conference, then maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe 3 and 4 years from now just doesn't matter. And the fact that you have to pay Bradley Beal $57 million when he's 33 years old, 4 years from now, maybe that doesn't matter if you think you can maximize your window now with Beal in a way that just doesn't exist with Tyler Herro. And there's so many other variables, and we're talking about this in the most simplistic way possible because, you could trade Tyler Herro for something else, and maybe there's an opportunity cost that comes with this and all this other stuff. But just in the most simple terms, if the Wizards call Miami and say, we need to have Tyler Herro in this deal, this is the kind of conversation that they probably have to have.
No doubt. And it almost feels like trading Herro for Beal, if that is in fact the structure of any potential trade target, it feels almost like change for change's sake. And I know I've seen the rationale. It's like, well, he hasn't been a factor. He wasn't a factor in this postseason. He wasn't a factor in last postseason because he was mostly injured. I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair, but it's also unfair considering the impact he had during the course of the regular season. Like, he had shown improvement. There was a case earlier in the season where he was a borderline all-star contender. Like he was really, really good for Miami during the regular
20
season.
points per game.
Yeah, and getting better. He showed some chops as a playmaker, even kind of taking, he wasn't looking to score as much. And then when he was called upon to score, he took that on. He handled the responsibility as well as he possibly could for a 22-year-old, given his situation and everything else like that. And then I think there was, at least from his perspective and from others, like that he would continue to evolve as a defender, and especially in not be as much of a weakness in the postseason where they can't target a player, et cetera, and take you away from your strength. I think he was looking forward to that challenge, and that's the kind of attitude you want from a young star. Is like, I can acknowledge I was bad at this last year, or not particularly good, and knowing that I want to get better, I want to be able to prove that to myself and to the fan base and to the organization. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, you could be giving up too early on what could be a potential star.
If you think Herro can be 90%, 85%, 80%, whatever, of Bradley Beal in the next 4 years, then it kind of seems silly to trade him for Bradley Beal. The only reason you would do it is because you think that you have a chance to go win a chance. And I think if you did that, there would have to be a second move, because I don't think that Bradley Beal and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo makes you good enough.
I think that's what it is. I think
it's good enough to part with Tyler Herro. Quickly on the stats, though. Last 2 years, here's what Bradley Beal averaged. Here's what Tyler Herro averaged. Again, just the last 2 seasons. Beal, 23 points per game on 48% shooting, 33% from three-point range, 4.3 rebounds, and 6 assists. Tyler Herro, 20 points per game, so about 3 points less, 44% shooting overall, so 4% less, 39% from 3, which is substantially better than what Beal was shooting at 33%. 5.2 rebounds, so he's a better rebounder. 4.1 assists, so 2 fewer assists than Beal. So there's that. The other thing is that Beal is owed $88 million more than Tyler Herro is over the length of his contract. So is $88 million worth it for that marginal improvement in playmaking, shots per or points per game, and 2-point shooting percentage? Is the $88 million worth that improvement? And I think, again, on its face, the answer would be obviously no. You would take the younger player who's improving over the older player who is declining and showing decline over the last couple of seasons. But if you think Beal can put you over the top, that's the other thing. The other part of this, too, is, and I've seen this talked about in terms of salary, that Beal is making almost twice as much as Tyler Herro. That's true. And again, at the risk of oversimplifying this, it wouldn't just be Herro for Beal. It would be Herro and another salary, and most likely Duncan Robinson. And when you take Duncan Robinson's salary, a long-term salary in his own right, into consideration here, then the money becomes a lot more equal. Bradley Beal is going to make $46.7 million next year. Herro and Duncan make combined $45.1. That's pretty much the same. Herro and Duncan in 2024, 2025. Herro and Duncan make $48.4 million. Beal makes $50. So less than $2 million difference. The next year, Herro and Duncan make 51 combined. Beal makes 53.7. So basically the same. The only major difference would be in 26-27 when Bradley Beal is making $57 million at 33 years old. At that point, Herro would be owed $33 million. Duncan's contract would be off the books. So there's a big difference there. But even at that point, other than Beal or Herro, Miami's cap sheet is completely clean, right? Bam, unless he signs an extension before then, which is possible, wouldn't be considered. Jimmy Butler, his contract would be expired by then. Like everybody else would be off the books by then. That's currently on the roster under contract under these current contracts. So I don't know. Like the money is a little bit more equal when you make a Herro and Duncan than Beal. So I thought that was worth bringing up because I think the way that this has been talked about has been a little misleading.
Could Tyler Herro have scored in Contavious Caldwell-Pope?
I think Tyler Herro would have been great in the finals. I thought he would have been really important. But I don't know that it would have been. I don't know that it would have been good enough for them to win the finals. I just think that would have been helpful.
The point is, though, we're talking about this deal for Beal, and given everything you just laid out and the structural differences in contracts and things of that sort, I think if Tyler is going to be good enough where you could say, well, he might not put us over the top, but at least he would help, then it's not worth it to acquire Bradley Beal. It's better to acquire somebody else for another area of weakness on this roster, specifically in the front court. Like you need a better player alongside Bam Adebayo because you didn't have that option. You could throw in Caleb there as a wing player, a guy who can bring the ball up, etc. You can throw in Kevin Love for the 10, 12 minutes that he was able to provide in the finals. That's not nearly enough. We saw what happened with Cody Zeller. Bam needs help. You need a bigger player out there, somebody to help in the perimeter. We're talking about acquiring Dame Lillard or Bradley Beal or both. And I don't know that that's necessarily the difference maker against this team in the finals. Like, if we saw what happened there. I mean, they were able to score. They struggled to score, but more importantly, I think they also struggled to defend. And I think a big part of that was the fact that they were so much smaller, and they were asking Gabe Vincent to pick up Aaron Gordon on occasion. They had a much bigger lineup. Yeah. Michael Porter Jr., as much of he wasn't a factor, there was the threat, and you had to play it. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if Beal and Lillard are the best options for Miami to pursue, especially if you're looking at mortgaging the future. And I think so many Heat fans are interested in that, considering, we were this close, right? That's the mentality of the Heat fan, is that it's like we were right there. You got to do this for Jimmy Butler. You have to be able to get yourself into position, and you were, just short of doing so. And the best way of doing that is with an obvious superstar scorer in Beal or Lillard preferably, I think, being the case.
Yes.
But I still don't know that. I don't know that either of those options. Again, you said this yesterday. Both those players on this roster puts you into contention. Does Lillard on this roster, considering what you'd have to give up and the likely loss of Strus and Vincent in free agency, does that put you into title contention?
So Lillard, no Beal?
No Beal, yeah.
Yeah. That's a way better starting place with Beal, because with Beal, if you acquire Beal, you need there has to be a 2A part of that. There has to be go get another power forward, go get another high level player. Yeah. With Damian Lillard, you still have things that you need to fill out in terms of the rest of the roster, but the margin for that is just much better, much easier to maneuver. I don't think it necessarily has to be some sort of high level other player. If you've got Lillard, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, that is a heck of a trio to build around. And then if you can go add some size and stuff like that on the margins, and I think that's easier. So I think all of this stuff basically comes down to, and by the way, the most recent reporting on Damian Lillard is that, that there has been no trade request made, and that the expectation is that he still will be in Portland next year, and that they're going to try to move their draft pick for some immediate help. But we'll see what happens, right? This kind of thing can change, right? Like Portland could become enamored with Scoot Henderson, and you're like, you know what? We're actually going to go in this other direction. So
he's going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a star.
Who's Scoot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm all in on Scoot. I actually don't know why he's not this number 2 pick. It's kind of ridiculous for me. But this is
Hornets.
Different. Yeah.
Do whatever you want, man. Go for it. Have
fun. Yeah. In terms of the Charlotte Hornets, I hear the Thompson twins are pretty great. Look, there's so much to get to here in terms of hypothetical trades. Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, are they the answer? Is there somebody else that maybe the Miami Heat should be targeting? That's what we're going to talk about next here on Locked On Heat.
Bird Dogs. This episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. And look, if you've heard us before in the past, Bird Dogs They make you look good. They make you feel good. Their stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They fit better than regular shorts and are made of just a stiff, restricting cotton. You don't have to worry about that with Bird Dogs because it's just flexible. You can wear them on so many different occasions, especially here in South Florida. You go and play golf, Bird Dogs. You go and sit by the pool, Bird Dogs. You go into a brunch or a party or something like that, Bird Dogs. It's just so easy. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA now, and you get a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Every day, as we are still here every day throughout the offseason talking about the draft, free agency, trades, and more. So subscribe for all of the latest on the Heat. All right, David. So I thought we could do something fun here. I'm calling it the hypothetical trade target draft. So just easy guidelines. It has to, I know we're talking hypothetical here, but it has to be somewhat realistic. Like the Warriors aren't trading Steph. You know, the Nuggets aren't trading Nikola Jokic. Like, not those guys. But just some of the guys that have been bandied about, some of the chatter guys, right? So the hypothetical chatter guy draft for the Miami Heat. So we don't have to talk about what it would cost necessarily or think about how realistic it is that they could even acquire these players. But I just want to talk about like kind of fit, ideal stars, things like that. Let's just have fun with it. So you go ahead with the number one pick.
It's a bad place for me to be in.
You want me to start? I'll start.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Damian Lillard. I think we've already talked about him a lot, but even considering everybody who could be on the board, I would still take Dame over everybody else. I just think the idea of pairing him with Bam Adebayo is basketball nirvana. You've got a guy who could space the floor from 35 feet, basically. Like Damian Lillard spacing the floor from the logo. You can run pick and roll with him and Bam. Bam getting in on the short roll and kicking it out to shooters. Like it would be basically Miami's version of Jokic, Jamal Murray, Miami's version of Draymond and Steph Curry. And we've seen how great those two-man games and those tandems can be, not to mention the fact that Damian Lillard could space the floor and score and play make for guys like Jimmy Butler too. So to me, he's the perfect fit. He's got like a Heat culture mentality about him too. That's my number one guy. It's Damian Lillard.
It's hard to disagree with that. I mean, he is such a good player. I just feel like, and I made this point last season too. You know, the acquiring of Lillard means the sacrificing of so much else, and I think we're starting to see, like, I know that rotations get cut short in the playoffs and things of that sort, but you still need to go 6 or 7, maybe 8 deep of quality role players, and I don't know that Miami can put together that kind of roster when you're committing that much money to Dame Lillard, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler.
It's a lot of money. You're making Lillard's gonna be making like $60 million in 3 or 4 years. I understand that. To me, that's a problem for the future Miami Heat. You deal with it then. But like you can go get Damian. Like I just think that the problem solving part of like the rosters is easier when you're starting from a place of we've got 3 superstars and one of them is somebody like Damian Lillard. Versus the other way where Miami is operating now, where it's like we've got a lot of really good 7th and 8th guys on our roster, but we don't really have that number one guy in terms of scorer. Jimmy Butler wasn't that guy. Bam Adebayo is not that guy, and I don't think they need to be those guys. I think Jimmy could be your alpha and your number one on a team. I'm talking about just scoring specifically, right? I don't want to get lumped in with Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith here. I'm just talking about scoring specifically in that skill. And Damian Lillard is that guy. And then Jimmy and Bam kind of make up for all of his other weaknesses. So I'd rather just start there and then work your way back as opposed to sort of working your way from the back of the roster and then working your way and then building up from there. That's sort of my theory. But
all right. So if I've got the second pick, I don't feel comfortable with this option either. But I think Kawhi Leonard would make a lot of sense for Miami.
Ooh, no way.
Okay.
You can have him, man. Good pick for you, I guess. Have fun with that.
You know, what's the knock on him?
He plays 40 games this season at best. I don't know that you have no idea when he's available. I kind of like my stars to play. What do you mean? Who cares? I want him to play
during the regular season.
Playoffs.
Did we just see
playoffs too? He gets hurt every playoffs. Every playoffs, he gets hurt.
You're right. Maybe I don't know. I suppose that's a problem. Maybe for the second pick, it's a. No, look, I get it. During the playoffs, during the regular season, Paul George. I'm not.
I was talking about Marcus Morris.
Yeah, okay. I've never been a Paul George truther. I know he was like, at one point top 5 player in the NBA and things of that sort, but I just don't see it at this point right now. If he's that guy, I mean, he can space the floor, long, rangy defender, etc. But you get that out of Kawhi as well. Again, championship,
for 20 fewer
proven.
games.
Yeah, I suppose.
All right,
Look,
so
I
you're
don't
taking
know.
Kawhi. All right, that's fine, man. Have fun
Yeah,
with
I'm
that.
staying
All
away.
right,
I'm
I'm
staying
winning
away
the
from the
draft pool.
point guard position. Okay, who's your third
Why are you
receiver?
staying away from the point guard position? Because you just don't like being small. You don't like the idea of.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not going to commit $120 million to a backcourt of guys that are going to get blown by every other possession,
All right, so that means I don't have to worry about you
especially
taking
without a
Trae
rim
Young. I don't have
protector.
to worry about you taking DeJounte Murray. I probably won't take those guys anyway. All
Yeah.
right, so you went with Kawhi. I'm gonna go ahead with Brandon Ingram. I'm gonna go with Brandon Ingram, younger wing, who's really good right now. 23, 24 points per game, can really shoot it, like a 38% clip from 3-point range. I like his pull-up 2-point game from like 18 feet. That's a reliable weapon for him. Defensively, you'd like to see him give more effort. I would bet on, if he were to hypothetically again be in Miami, that they could get more a little out of him than they were able to get in New Orleans out of him. And he's young, and I think he kind of keeps that window open for you in a really balanced way, where you're talking about older guys like Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Kawhi, like these other guys. Like if you go ahead and get Brandon Ingram, he's good enough to be like a top scorer on your team right now and help you win a championship right now, and then develop with Bam Adebayo going forward and kind of keep both windows open a little bit. So I'm going to go Ingram as my second pick.
I feel like I'm terrible at this. I'm going to go with OG Anunoby.
You are really bad at this.
Thanks.
OG Anunoby, why?
Because I think, again, he's a complementary player you need. I still believe in this team. I'm not going to blow up a third of this roster or half this roster because you're going to lose 2 key free agents. I'm not going to blow.
You would rather have Anunoby than Pascal Siakam?
I think he's more complementary to what Miami does. Another defensive-minded player who can space the floor a little bit more effectively than Siakam can. So, yes.
Wow.
You're not getting Karl Anthony Towns, game changer that he might be.
Why not? Cat was going to be my next. Cat might have been my next pick.
Because Jimmy Butler hates him. That's why. So good luck with all that. He's soft as you know what. So
all right. I've got Lillard and Brandon Ingram. You've got Kawhi and OG Anunoby. We're going to continue along with our hypothetical trade target draft. I was going to pick Cat. I guess I'm not now because you make a really good Jimmy Butler point. I don't necessarily need to invite that into the Miami Heat locker room. So I've got some decisions coming up. We're going to talk about that next year on Locked On Heat. But first, David, tell listeners about our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events doesn't have to be stressful. Gametime is fast. It's easy. You can buy tickets for anything you're thinking of doing: sports, music, comedy, theater. They've got killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. So you don't have to worry about the tickets and just get excited about the event and the fun that you'll be having there. They've got flash deals on last-minute ticket availability. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, and you get images of the seat view so you know exactly where you're sitting. You don't have to worry about a stanchion in the way or some kind of antenna or whether or not there's going to be some kind of blockage of whatever it is that you're trying to see. You know exactly where you're going to be sitting and exactly what kind of view you'll be getting, and you get the lowest price guarantee. So don't worry about whether or not the event gets canceled or anything like that. You've got protection for it. Get images, again, of your seat before you buy. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. And tickets are sent directly to your phone. You never have to dig through your email. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, you just go create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Every dayers, we're still here every single day throughout the offseason talking about the draft, free agency, trades, and more. So subscribe for all the latest on the Miami Heat. Continuing along with our hypothetical trade target draft, I have Damian Lillard and Brandon Ingram. You have Kawhi Leonard and OG Anunoby. My team is way better than yours.
I don't know
let's
about
see. Where do I want to go next? You left. I was going to go Cat, but you made a good point. that he doesn't get along. But man, like a guy like Karl Anthony Towns who can like legitimately not shoot it for a big man, legitimately shoot the
Oh yeah,
ball.
it's a
Oh
three-point
my, like
contest
next to
winner.
Bam Adebayo
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
perfect. I mean,
his
there's
defensive problems won't have to worry about that because you got Bam cleaning him up. I mean, there's a
and
Kentucky
Jimmy.
connection. Yeah, I mean, it's so
The
much.
decision making makes me a little uncomfortable, but you would hope that in Miami, Eric Spoelstra, they could clean
Dude, the
some of
guy
that
went
stuff
on
up.
a podcast and said he was going to be a game-changing player at the end of his career. Right now, he can barely break an all-star rotation. Like,
It's
I
ridiculous
don't.
that he said that. I just
I,
I I don't want to sound like old guy on the lawn kind of thing, like yelling at clouds, but like the kids these days, like do
the,
something before
the
you
things
start
they
thinking.
say on the social media. He's on the Facebook talking about game changer. Come on, bro.
Like,
Get
do
out of here.
something. Do
Yeah.
something in the NBA. Do something one time. Like once. Do one good thing in the playoffs. One time. Before you start
He's
talking about I'm going to change the game. You
the
could.
tallest
He's got the
three-point
skill set.
contest
He's
winner
got it
ever.
right.
He's already
Yes.
won.
Congrats. You won a 3-point contest. Congratulations. Something nobody cares about. Look, he's got all the skill in the world, man. Like he could legitimately be maybe like his just skill-wise, talent-wise, could be the greatest offensive center we've ever seen. But he just doesn't have it. Like it's not translating. Like it's
I
just
know.
not working. And
It feels like the conversation we used to have about Hassan White's. Like they put Udonis is retired. Get some comic book scientist to transplant his brain and his heart directly into Karl Anthony Towns' body and watch that player become the game changer he envisions himself to be. Because it's just, I don't know, something about him just doesn't click. And yeah, you do watch him for like any period of time, and he's just so damn good. Like he's skilled. He's like low post moves, the way he can handle the ball for his size, the way he can shoot it, and then it's like everything else is just like, why is he even out there? Like
yeah.
the Wolves were at one point better with him like off the floor, just Rudy Gobert out there, and that's another thing, a conversation worth having there. But anyway, who's your pick?
I'm looking up Pascal Siakam's 3-point shooting numbers right now.
32%, baby.
Is it?
Yep.
All right, I'm going Paul George. I'm going to go Paul George
Oof.
with my pick here. I like it. No, I mean, what do you mean, oof?
No.
Paul George is awesome, man. That dude's a baller. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter, elite defender. He carries the Clippers in, the 2 nights out of the week that Kawhi Leonard decides he's not going to play that night. And I just think him and Jimmy Butler together makes a lot of sense. The problem with Paul George, he doesn't really make any of his teammates better. He's like an okay playmaker. He's not great. Clippers people want you to think that he's like this awesome, like super developed pick and roll ball handler who's kind of underrated. I think he's fine. I think he's an okay ball handler, but you've got Jimmy and Bam for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Paul George here.
I'm kind of waffling here. A couple of guys. I'm sure one of them is going to be available later on. So I'm going to go with Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant. You just don't want like a legit star. Like the only reason you took Kawhi is because he wouldn't like shake the apple cart like for 50% of the season because he won't be available. Like you just don't want to mess up what it is that the Heat have. You're just looking for complimentary play. We should have made this the complimentary players draft. Maybe we should do that.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
I mean, we could have had that for a whole other show topic.
Oh, I kind of blew it here, I guess.
But yeah, you're just you and I we're doing 2 different shows right now.
Yeah, I mean, Wes, in all fairness, and our listeners should know this, I got like a 30-second heads up before the show started recording about exactly what the purpose of the show was. So I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare as most of our.
You could have taken Zion. John Morant is on the board, but you're like, no, give me Jeremy Grant.
I don't want Zion. Like
Jaylen
again, we're
Brown?
talking about
Joel Embiid.
I don't think either of them are getting moved. And no, you fans of this show know how I feel about Joel Embiid. Like that's it.
All right, have fun with Jeremy Grant, man. I guess he can play power forward.
I'm taking over Locked On
Sixers. Jeremy Grant would be a good fit. To your point with Miami, it's kind of exactly what Miami's looking for. So whatever.
Damn right. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, I'll go Siakam next.
All right.
So you have 2 more and I have 1 more.
Kristaps Porzingis.
All right, that's your first good pick. The entire thing.
Is it Porzingis?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have taken him number 1, I would have rolled my eyes at you. But here at number 4, that's good value.
All right, fair enough.
4th round.
Okay, yeah, cool. I got another one.
7'3", 7'4", awesome 3-point shooter. I think he's really good defensively. You could kind of like it's sort of like the best case scenario of like the Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard, Kevin Love stuff. Like he's 27 years old. I think he was a lot better than people give him credit for in Washington this last year. I think Porzingis would be a great fit. Like if the Heat were able to get Porzingis and Bradley Beal in a trade,
Yeah.
now I'm
That's
very
the-
interested in that kind of scenario. And I don't think that's off the table. I don't think that, you know what I mean? There's no, like, contracts wise, they can make it happen. You know, I just don't really know what Miami's real interest in Kristaps Porzingis would be.
We got another pick too, right?
Yeah, I've got one more, and then you get the last one.
Oh,
I could go Zion here.
go DeAndre Ayton.
No, he's not a good fit next to Bam.
Really?
I thought about doing like Jared Allen, but like just the two non-shooters, and I don't know what center would be available that can shoot the ball. So that's the
Miles
problem.
Turner. That's my next pick.
He's not getting traded. He just signed an extension.
That's all the more reason to trade him.
The Pacers aren't trading him. There's been Levine rumblings. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter. You and I talked ourselves into Levine last summer. I'm gonna go Bradley Beal here. I'll go Beal. I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna go Beal here. So last pick is up to you.
I can't go Turner because he's not.
Yeah,
really
I don't think
available.
Turner. Yeah, I don't think Turner counts anymore.
Right.
Like John Collins is the new Miles Turner. He's gonna be the guy that's like perpetually in trade machines until he's finally traded.
He has been since he was drafted. It seems
That's
like.
true. You can take John
Bojan-
Collins. You know?
Bojan Bogdanovic.
Bojan Bogdanovic. All right, that's fine. I had him on my board too. Dorian Finney-Smith. I almost went.
That's a good one. It's just I think with Caleb on the roster,
I didn't want to steal your. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Hey, well, you hate role players, but I mean, Finney Smith. I know he played the 4 a little bit, but he's still a little undersized. I don't think he's the right option.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of like the Grant Williams scenario. It's like still giving up a lot of size there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun. Nice little exercise there. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Everydayers, we are still here every day throughout the offseason talking about the draft, free agency, trades, and more. So subscribe for all the latest on the Miami Heat. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. And we'll see you here next week. Thanks for joining me, David.
Like complimentary role players.